Hey, what's up, guys? CombatCritique here. Let's take a look at this upcoming fight between Sodiq Yusuf and Edson Barboza. So let's get started. If we look at the records of these two fighters, starting with Sodiq, Sodiq Yusuf has 15 MMA fights in total, and he's won 13 of his 15 fights, lost just two. If we talk about his 13 wins, he has 6 wins via knockout, just one via submission, and another 6 via decision. So he is a striker. Just by looking at his wins, you can see most of his wins are via knockout or via decision. Just one of his wins was via submission, and that too came in his last fight. If we talk about his two losses, he has been knocked out just once in his career, and he has also lost once via decision. Now let's take a look at Edson Barboza's record. So Barboza has 34 fights and he's won 23 of his 34 fights, lost 11. If we talk about his 23 wins, he has 14 wins via knockout, just one via submission, and 8 via decision. So pretty similar to Yusuf in the sense that both these guys have a lot of knockout and decision wins and very few submission wins. If we talk about the 11 losses of Barboza, he has lost 4 times via knockout, twice via submission, and 5 times via decision. So this man has had his share of losses. He has been in the UFC for a while now, and he has fought all the top level guys in his division as well as you know in the lightweight division. Now let's take a look at the physical and career stats of both these guys. Starting with the height. So height is 5 feet 9 inches for Yusuf, and it is 5'11 for Barboza. So Barboza will have a 2-inch height advantage. If we talk about the weight, both these guys will weigh at the featherweight limit, which is 146 pounds. I don't think anybody should miss weight. Reach is 71 inches for Yusuf and it is 75 inches for Barboza. So Barboza will have a significant 4-inch reach advantage as well. Both these guys are orthodox stance fighters. And if we talk about the age, so age, there's a gap of about 7 years between these two guys. Yusuf is the younger fighter, whereas Edson Barboza is nearing his retirement and he is on the tail end of his career. Age can definitely play a huge factor in this fight. Now let's talk about the career statistics, starting with the strike landed per minute. So this metric signifies the average number of strikes that you land on your opponent per minute. This is 5.29 for Yusuf and it is 4 for Barboza. So in this case, Yusuf is landing a lot more significant strikes per minute on his opponents and he will have an advantage here. Next up, we have the striking accuracy, which is 49% for Yusuf and it is 44% for Barboza. So both these guys are pretty close, but a slight advantage again goes to Yusuf. Next up, we have the strikes absorbed per minute. Now, this is the opposite of strikes landed per minute, and this signifies the number of strikes that you absorb from your opponents per minute on average. This is 3.65 for Yusuf, and it is 4.12 for Barboza. In this case, the guy with the lower number has an advantage because he is getting hit lesser. So, again, the advantage here goes to Yusuf. Striking defense is 57% for Yusuf, and it is 58% for Barboza. So, both these guys are pretty much even, but a very slight advantage goes to Barboza. Overall, in the striking department, I think looking at these stats, we can see Yusuf is the better striker in 3 of the 4 metrics, and in the last one, it is almost dead even. Barboza is very slightly ahead. Now, let's take a look at the wrestling, grappling, and BJJ statistics, starting with the takedown average. So, takedown average is 0.18 for Yusuf, and it is surprisingly 0.38, which is higher for Barboza. So, Barboza has an advantage in the wrestling department. And if we talk about the takedown accuracy, it is just 12% for Sodiq Yusuf and it is surprisingly 44% for Edson Barboza. So Edson Barboza should definitely use his wrestling, which I don't think he will in this fight. Takedown defense is 70% for Yusuf and it is 75% for Barboza. So again, Barboza is ahead. I don't think Barboza will use his wrestling. He has not used his wrestling, and most of his wrestling is basically defensive wrestling. Now let's take a look at the submission average, which is 0.6 for Yusuf and it is 0.1 for Barboza. So here the advantage actually goes to Yusuf. He is the better submission guy in this fight. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by position for these two guys, starting with Yusuf. So 79% of all the strikes that Yusuf throws are from the standing position, just 13% in the clinch and 8% on the ground. If we compare this with Barboza, 93% of all the strikes that Barboza throws are from the standing position. So he really likes to keep it standing. He does not like to go on the ground or on the clinch, just 3% from the clinch and 4% on the ground. So we know that Barboza likes to keep it standing, whereas Yusuf has a bit more diversity in his game. Now let's take a look at the significant strikes by target, starting with Yusuf. 57% of all his strikes are to the head, 19% to the body, and 24% to the leg. If we compare this with Barboza, who throws 44% of all his strikes to the head, 29% to the body, so he likes going to the body more often than Yusuf, and 27% to the leg. So both these guys use leg kicks, but Barboza goes more to the body, and Yusuf is headhunting more often than Barboza. Now let's talk about some of the previous performances of these two guys, starting with Yusuf. So Yusuf in his last fight beat Don Chinese via guillotine choke, and this is the only submission win that he has on his record. He did it in the first round, and this fight happened in October of last year. So he is taking a year off to come back. And if we talk about the fight before that, he beat Alex Caceres by unanimous decision, and this was a close fight between these two guys. This happened in March of last year. It was a 3-round fight. Before this, Yusuf lost to Arnold Allen, and this is his only UFC loss. And this was a unanimous decision win for Arnold Allen. He used his wrestling to win the fight. This happened in April of 2021. It was again a 3-round fight. Before that, Yusuf beat Andre Fili via unanimous decision in January of 2020 in a 3-round fight again. This fight was also a pretty close fight, but Yusuf managed to get the better of Andre Fili and win this fight. Before this, Yusuf also beat Gabriel Benitez via TKO in the very first round and Shayman Moraes via unanimous decision in a 3-round fight. And before that was his UFC Fight Night debut, where he beat Suman Mokhtarian via TKO in the very first round in 2018. So this man does not have a lot of UFC experience. He has not fought at the highest level, except for guys like Arnold Allen, Alex Caceres, and Andre Fili. I think these are the three most recognizable names on his record. If we compare this with Edson Barboza, so Edson in his last fight beat Billy Quarantillo via knockout, and this was a good knockout in the very first round. This fight happened in April of this year, so Barboza is not taking a lot of time off. Remember, he is the older fighter and he is pretty much nearing his retirement. He is older than Yusuf by about 7 years. I think Barboza knows this, and this is why he is fighting really actively in recent times. If we talk about the fight before that, he took around a year before that when he fought Bryce Mitchell, and he lost to Bryce Mitchell via unanimous decision. Bryce used his wrestling to shut down Edson Barboza for 3 rounds and win a unanimous decision. This fight happened in March of 2022. So since then, he waited more than a year to come back and fought in April of this year. I don't think he wants to waste any more time, and he wants to come back once again to fight Sodiq Yusuf. If we talk about the fight before that, Edson lost to Giga Chikadze via TKO, and this was a high level striking fight between both these guys. He lost in the third round, and this fight happened in August of 2021. Before this, he beat Shane Burgos via knockout in the third round, and he beat Makwan Amirkhani via unanimous decision in the third round as well. Sorry, it was a 3-round fight and it went the distance. Before this, he lost to Dan Ige via split decision in a 3-round fight. Also lost to Paul Felder. This was a close fight, and this was given a split decision win for Paul Felder. This happened in September of 2019. And before this, he also lost to Justin Gaethje via knockout. So all these guys are big names in the featherweight as well as the lightweight division. Before this, he beat Dan Hooker via knockout, punch to the body in the third round. And before that, he lost to Kevin Lee via TKO, doctor stoppage, in the fifth round. Barboza landed that knee on Kevin Lee and made him a meme. So overall, if you talk about the experience, Barboza has a lot of experience fighting top level guys. He has also been in 5 round main events, and this is Sodiq Yusuf's first main event in the UFC. This is the first time he's going 5 rounds. We don't know how his cardio will hold up if the fight goes to the fourth and the fifth round. Also, I believe Edson Barboza has more knockout power in his striking, and Sodiq Yusuf has really knocked out 2 guys, and one of them is Suman Mokhtarian, who is not a really high level guy, and the other one is Gabriel Benitez, who he knocked out in the first round. But again, these guys don't compare to the guys that Edson Barboza has fought and knocked out. I think Barboza has better variety in his shots. He goes to the body more often than Sodiq Yusuf, and he can knock you out via his spinning kicks and knees. If I have to pick a winner, I think it's a really close fight. Sadiq Yusuf is the young and inexperienced guy, whereas Barboza is the more experienced but older guy. I think I'm gonna go with Sadiq Yusuf. It is almost a 50-50 fight, but I think Sadiq Yusuf will keep it standing, and he is the better striker. We have seen the metrics. He was ahead in 3 of the 4 metrics. I think for these reasons, I'm picking Yusuf to win this fight. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video.